Alright, let's go. Let's do this stupid fucking video and listen to this man prattle on about absolutely nothing. Ugh.
Well, folks, I just got back from the theaters seeing Barbie and Oppenheimer. I'm about to review both of them. I'm going to tell you which one of these is the best blockbuster of 2023 and which one is maybe the worst.
I bet he loved our movie, right, Ken?
Okay, just so that way we can play this game and be as fair and open-minded as possible, where this man is obviously not. Let's just go through this step by step really fast. Barbie was invented by Ruth Handler. She named the doll after her daughter Barbara. And she made Barbie because when Barbara was a kid in 1959, the only dolls they had for girls were Barbie baby dolls. They didn't have Barbie dolls. Barbie dolls were specifically invented to tell girls you can go do whatever you want as far as a workforce thing goes. It's to tell them you can be anything you want to be. And I'm not entirely too sure what this man's problem is. Also, his little stop-motion Barbie thing falls really, really flat is because there is actually an entire YouTube channel called The Most Popular Girls in School that does this a million times better. You might know them from the Pergurginate meme, which is literally what it's called, and if you don't know what that meme is, I'm just gonna be nice and throw it up so you know what it is we're talking about.
No.
I mean, it was good. It wasn't great.
No.
Hey, Trisha.
You are one of my very best friends, and I cannot stand by and watch you throw away your life like this. You're too young. You're too beautiful.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I'm talking about the baby that's growing inside of your belly right now.
See ya.
I'm not pregnant!
Well, not after that punch, you're not. I've been taking Muay Thai classes.
I was never pregnant, Trisha.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm fucking sure.
I'm sorry, but why the fuck is everybody yelling over here?
Oh, I found this positive pregnancy test, and there was...
Good!
Oh, motherfucker!
Okay,
For those of you who can't wait that long, I'm going to give my review of the Barbie movie in the most Oppenheimer fashion.
What the f***? Run.
A review would technically imply that you would be giving positive and negatives for whatever it is you are reviewing instead of just trying to make satire about a franchise that you knew you weren't going to like from the word go. This is why disingenuous reviews sometimes hurt movies and franchises, is because your inability to actually review something and only make weird little points that matter to you means that people that are actually in it for reviews because they just want to know what's coming at them in a movie feels like you're just purposely being critical of something that you know for a fact you didn't want to watch, you didn't even want to really like to watch it, and all this other jazz. So you just decided, I'm going to review this in the most negative light possible and watch the other movie that came out with it so that way it seemed quote-unquote fair. There's nothing fair about this review if you're not actually planning on letting it get a fair review for anything when you're just trying to be pedantic because you're a whiny bitch baby. Just saying.
Piece of This movie is a flaming piece of dog piled atop an entire dumpster on fire, piled atop a landfill filled with dog. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. On every possible level, it is a horrific movie. The only thing that can be said for this film is production design.
Can you cite your sources on why you think it's bad and why you think it's having such a hard time reaching audiences? Realistically, I'm more than willing to listen to people that go to movies and say, oh, it wasn't for me and I don't like them. But if you can't even cite specifically what about it is making you so mad, then I'm beginning to think you just didn't like the movie because it wasn't specifically what you wanted to see. It's not like the marketing for the Barbie movie was somehow a revolutionary, catch-22 gotcha moment. They straight up tell you to your face, it's a Barbie movie, my guys. If you hate Barbie, it's for you. If you don't like Barbie, it's for you. It is legitimately the biggest look. Actually, I am going to say it like that. It is the biggest middle finger to people that want to be super critical of a pretty much low, I'm not going to say lowbrow because it has Margot Robbie in it. It basically is just saying, look, dude, it's fine. I promise you it's fine. If you don't like the movie, just say you didn't like the movie, because Lord heaven above forbid that you enjoy a movie that's at its core, right? Surface level cereal spoon deaf. It's a goofy movie. It's deeper than that, right? It is deeper than that, but like base level, if you're just going in to watch a movie, it's fun. Chill your man titties. It's not that bad.
The production design's really nice. The costumes are really nice. Also, it's really hard to screw that up. It's really hard to screw that up because you literally have this to model after. All you have to do is this, but big. Okay? It's really not tough. But put aside all of the beautiful costumes, which is there for the ladies, and all of the production.
I have a friend who literally went to school to study fashion. He makes wedding dresses now. Fashion is not just specifically for women. Fashion is in general, and by design, supposed to be for male and female viewing. Legitimately. Sometimes clothes are made with the opposite sex in mind because it's designed to entice them. It's not like all the clothing in the world is only made by women. There are some clothes that just straight up are made by guys. It doesn't matter if it appeals to male or female demographics. It applies to, are you gonna wear it? I know for a fact, all the shorts I buy, if they're not my booty shorts, they are, by design, guy shorts, because I want deep pockets. I know that is a weird thing, but I want deep pockets, so I go shopping in the guy section. Fashion is not one or the other. Fashion is, what is it you're looking for, my good sir, my good ma'am? You tell me. And then that's usually where it ends. Real fast. It ends right there.
Design and the Barbie universe and all of that. Every joke that happens in this film happens basically within the first 45 seconds of the film. So, for example, Barbie turns on the water and there's no water. Ooh, because, like in Barbie house, there's no actual water. Do you get it? And then she drinks, but there's no actual liquid in the actual.
Ben, have you never been to the movies before? It's called the willing suspension of disbelief. I know that is a wild concept to hear, but the willing suspension of disbelief is why 99% of the movies we see are mostly fiction. I'm sorry, but if somebody told me that there was actually working water in a Barbie house, I would have a whole minute where I'd be like, I cannot imagine these parents' water bill for a Barbie that actually has to take a shower. Barbie is a toy. We know that when we go into it. Why is this a sticking point for you, you weirdo?
Cup. Oh my God, because she's a Barbie doll. Oh, I get it. Okay, that's all the jokes. There are no more jokes for the rest of the film. The movie's a show. Okay, so conceptually, the movie is a show. I want to ask this. Who is the intended audience for this film? Who's the intended audience for this film? So I'll tell you who the intended...
Sometimes I wonder how we got here to the point where these people are allowed to just talk, and I don't quite understand it. What do you mean when you say, what is the intended audience that was aimed at the Barbie movie? Barbie, here, ready? Here's my overall 2 cents on the Barbie movie. Full ham, this is my personal feelings on it. Barbie was about motherhood and belonging and feminism and love and identity and toxic masculinity and existentialism and humanism, and it was, above all, and this is the most important part of it, it was pink. Again, right? It was pink. And I know, for some people, right, it seems to be the biggest sticking point 5 ever that, boo, how dare this movie be a thing. I'm gonna let you know right now. I went to go see this movie. I was in line, went for myself to see it. The people in front of me were dressed up in pink, right? Just straight up pink. This man, pink shirt. His person next to him, pink skirt. They were dressed up in pink. And you know what they got? They got 2 different tickets. They got 2 tickets for Barbie, and then they asked, when's the next showing for Oppenheimer when the Barbie movie gets out? And they bought Oppenheimer tickets. They did it on purpose, because movies are supposed to be fun. I know that is a wild concept to people who just don't like fun. But I promise you, if you get over yourself for 45 seconds and turn your brain off and just enjoy a movie, you go places. It's fun. Don't buy the snacks, those are outrageously expensive. Sneak them in, as God intended.
Audience for this film is, and I can tell 2 ways. 1, the previews on the film, and 2, the people in the audience. So, the intended audience for this film is moms and their 8-year-old daughters. That's the intended audience for the film. I know because the previews for the film were all kids' movies.
I remember that I went to go see My Sister's Keeper, which is a sad movie aimed at adults. All the previews for that movie were also kids' films. I'm just saying. They show commercials on Cartoon Network and like Nickelodeon and like Disney Channel when it was still on for adults. Previews and commercials are not generally aimed at specific audiences just because you go to a certain place to watch them. They're just going to shove you basically whatever is there to entice you to go to the movies again. So calm your man titties. Jesus.
Talking like G or PG rated kids films. We're talking like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Trolls 4 or whatever it is. Those were all the previews, right? All the previews are actually directed at what the audience is supposed to be for this film. And if you look in the audience, it's a bunch of moms, like youngish moms.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was an American media franchise and was primarily a comic book created by artists Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Everybody knows with TMNT, it follows the four brothers, their sensei / father / a rat called Splinter, the Shredder, April O'Neil, sometimes a love interest, always Casey Jones. The franchise began as a comic book series, which Eastman and Laird conceived as a parody of elements popular in superhero comics at the time. The first issue was published in 1984 by Eastman and Laird's company, Mirage Studios, and it was a surprise success because, well, no duh, right? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sounds like a Mad Lib. They eventually sold it, right? It went through several different styles. From 1984 to 2009, it was owned by Mirage Studios. Nickelodeon, now known as Paramount, owned them from 2009 to the present. Also, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is, yes, technically a children's franchise, but also, no, it's really not. Because the last major big name studio that had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, was actually rated PG-13. Yeah, just as a heads up. It was a budget of $135 million, and it raked in $245.6 million at the box office. So not really that bad, not really that great. It got a green light for another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series for sometime in this year. I think August. Doesn't matter really what month or time period it's coming out. It's set for this year. So that's really super important. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is technically a children's franchise until you remember in the comics, actually, it's really bloody and gross. So I'm really confused on what are you talking about, my dude? Like, what source material are we talking about? We're talking about the original comics, we're talking about the New Age comics, we're talking about all the cartoon series that have been placed on TV, or we're talking about the movies. Like, what are we talking about? Be specific.
Moms, middle-aged moms, with their like 6, 7, 8-year-old girls. That's the entire crew. This movie is not made for any of those people. In fact, this movie is made for no one. This movie is going to make a bunch of money week one because the marketing effort has been extraordinary. I mean, whoever's the marketing team over at Warner Brothers is...
You are correct. Marketing plays a major role in promoting all kinds of movies. It's the reason why when stuff isn't promoted correctly, people really don't want to go see it. But the fact that it's between marketing and the fact that they got a really big name behind them for this movie drew it in really, really hard. Margot Robbie is a superstar. Most of the stuff, when it hits her name on there, people go flock to see it. Ryan Gosling was another reason why they went to go see it, because people like Ryan Gosling. Sometimes it's a mix between marketing and who they've got in it. That's really all it is. It's not like some revolutionary new thing that they just didn't know how to do. Get your recipes together, man.
Doing an amazing job. Week one, this thing is going to clean up at the domestic box office. My prediction is going to just absolutely fall off a cliff after that. The repeat business on this movie is going to be non-existent because it was written by two people who are so smug and self-satisfied, in Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach, that they have no audience. I mean, like, who thought it's a great idea? Let's bring on the people who wrote Lady Bird and Marriage Story to make a movie about a plastic doll that is generally played with by 5 to 9-year-old young girls.
Serious follow-up question. Did you watch either of these movies? Lady Bird and or Marriage Story? I hate to break it to you, but those movies were really profound and like really well written. Granted, they're not big box office like, behold, all the cars we can put in here, all the explosions we could have been here. They're down-to-earth personal stories about real things that happen to real people, specifically Marriage Story. It's about a man and a woman in the middle of a really brutal divorce and their kid kind of being caught in the middle of it. The story itself revolves around the fact that, yes, mom and dad don't really love each other anymore, but they still love their kid. At the core of it, they still love their child. And through a bunch of trials and tribulations, they more or less kind of plateau out. Which, I'm going to be completely honest, as far as a down-to-earth, non-fictional kind of story, it wasn't that bad. I've personally never seen Lady Bird, but, like, the way you make it sounds like a movie that completely destroyed entire nations and ripped apart families. I feel like a very quick Google search will prove me very, very wrong. And it is going to prove me very wrong. Yeah, Lady Bird is a 2017 film. Who's in it, actually? I'm curious. Hold on. Nobody. Nope. There he is. Timothy Charlemagne, whatever the fuck his name is. He knows who he is. It's set in Sacramento, California, fall 2002 to fall 2003. Ooh, rough years. Okay, the story of a high school senior and her strained relationships, blah, 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 blah. Gotta read really fast. Lady Bird premiered at the 44th Telluride Film Festival on September 2017. Was there actively released in the United States on November 2024. Ooh, A24. Good shit. The film received widespread critical acclaim, with reviews praising Gerwig's screenplay and direction and the performance of Ronan Metcalf. It was considered by many critics as one of the best films of 2017 and one of the best films of the 2010s. Lady Bird was chosen by the National Board of Review and the American Film Institute. The plot. Okay, it's a coming-of-age story. My guy, what is your damage? Do you just not like these kinds of stories? You could just say you don't like these kinds of stories. No one's gonna boo-hoo you about it.
So the basic idea of the film, they really have no basic idea of the film. They don't know whether they hate Barbie or that we're supposed to kind of like Barbie. It seems they kind of despise Barbie as a fascist emblem, as we'll get to. The basic sort of premise of the film, politically speaking, is that men and women are on two sides of the divide and they hate each other. And literally the only way you can have a happy world is if the women ignore the men and the men ignore the women.
Sir, did you and I watch the same movie? What are you talking about? It's the world of Barbies. They literally, throughout the whole film, they're always together. That is literally the function of Ken in Barbie world. Ken is Barbie's accessory, because in Barbie land, literally written into her f***ing backstory, is she's the breadwinner. That's why she's got PhDs. That's why she's been president like 50 bajillion times. That's why she's an astronaut, a brain surgeon. Homegirl is the breadwinner. What is Ken? Ken is her stay-at-home husband. And he's completely content with that setup because she pays the bills, she loves him, their life is good. So the Kens in the Barbie universe are very content to just be accessories to Barbie because Barbie takes care of them. It's only until the rest of the plot suddenly becomes an issue that then it becomes an issue. What movie were you watching?
That seems to be the final outcome of this film. I was trying to separate this into problems with plot and problems with character and problems with the politics of the film, but they're all intertwined because the thing is just a mess. It doesn't make any sense. Plot-wise, it makes no sense. Character-wise, it makes no sense. So let's just go through it from the beginning.
There's no point worried about things you can't fix. There's no point worried about things you can't fix. Thinking too much is like thinking about nothing, like water in the desert trying to make the plants grow. You're wasting precious brain space and it's stretching stuff when you should be filling it with sugar cookie dough. When you're feeling unhappy, don't think, don't think. When you're feeling kind of sad, don't think, don't think. Cause there's no point in thinking about the things that you're thinking about if things that you're thinking about are making thinking rough. And that's how saunas stay so happy.
Okay, there's going to be lots of spoilers, but believe you me, I'm about to save you so much time because this movie is 2 hours. It feels like it is longer than the Wagnerian ring cycle. It does not end. Every scene is at least 2 minutes too long. Every single scene, every beat is 2 minutes too long. It is a bad film. Put aside the politics. Really, I was sitting there with a bunch of my producers. I'm a little bit more political than my producers. My producers were watching this, putting the politics aside. It is a bad movie. So why is it getting 91% on Rotten Tomatoes? Because the way that it works for the reviewers is if you have the right politics, and those politics are sufficiently slyly inserted, then it will get a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, even if the thing is just dreck.
None of that story is true, is it, Carl?
No, I made it all up because I crave attention.
And I mean, boy, is this dreck. This is a Death Star-sized piece of dreck. It is like, that's no moon. That's a dreck station. That this movie. Okay, so let's jump into it. I have like pages and pages of notes on this horrific piece of I mean, my goodness. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. So it's from the beginning, you know what this movie is going to be, and it's going to be a very cynical take on what Barbie is.
I have a feeling this is just a you problem. Like, I really, really do. This is a you problem. There is no way that you have 43 minutes of just complaining about one movie, even though you went to go see 2. Sir, if you didn't like the movie, it should take you 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you're gonna add in goofy stuff, to explain why you didn't like the movie. That's it. Just look at the camera dead in the eye and say, I didn't like it. For my own personal reasons. And then it's good. This movie, this essay of yours is 43 minutes long, and so far, we are not even, I think, 10 minutes in to what we were supposed to be talking about. Never mind, I take that back. We're only 21 minutes in, and I've yet to actually hear a real critique about what specifically about the movie isn't doing right. So far, it's been a lot, and I do mean a lot, of you personally complaining about stuff that you just don't like about it. What? Sir, pick a lane.
Which is so weird. I don't know why Mattel would turn over its IP to filmmakers who clearly hate the IP. It's as though you were going to make Toy Story, except that toys are all evil. They're all bad, and you're supposed to hate them, and you should burn them. Because that's kind of the message of the film, is that the Barbies are bad for the world. Okay, so...
Ben Shapiro, do you live in a completely different universe from me? Because I watched this movie. What? What are you talking about? Barbies aren't bad for the world. You know what's bad for the world? I'll tell you. This weird obsession with trying to make things super duper important that are not really super duper important. It's the reason why women used to have pockets back in the days. You want to know what suddenly happened? I'll tell you what suddenly happened. You guys decided we're going to make purses, and the only way we're going to get them to buy purses is to take away the pockets on the pants. And then that was a thing, and now purses are mainstream, and as somebody owns a clutch, and I don't have pockets deep enough to hold my fucking clutch, I actually get aggravated because I'll be damned if I'm going to buy a purse. I don't need a purse, I need bigger pockets. I'm sorry, the pocket debate is very, very, important to me. I know it might not be important to other people, but it is very much a thing that bothers me personally. So my point is, we have created artificial debates and reasons and all this bull honky that means nothing. What movie did you go see? I'm super curious, because you obviously weren't watching Barbie, or if you did, you didn't pay attention to it. I think you were half asleep.
Begins by trying to uphold the original vision of Barbie. What was the original magical vision of Barbie? We have Helen Mirren here to tell us, in the form of a narrator apparently played by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's speaking from heaven. And we get a 2001 A Space Odyssey flashback. Which again, who's the audience for this? Right? The reference points in this film, it references variously Marcel Proust. It references Robert Evans and the cinematography of The Godfather. It references 2001 A Space Odyssey. This is a movie made for moms and their 7-year-old girls. Well, folks, wasting 2 hours of my precious time, 2 hours I will never get back. 2 hours where on my deathbed, I will wish that I had not spent that time doing. Makes me viscerally angry. But I'm going to talk to you about something.
So this is like the 3rd or 4th time that you've brought this up, that it's moms and their daughters. I went to go see Barbie. I'm 30. I'm going to let you know right now. The audience that I had was equal parts women my age, moms and their daughters, moms and their sons, people with their significant others. It was a smorgasbord of, people. I don't know where you live or what you were watching or anything else, but it sounds to me like you knew you weren't going to like this movie. And you knew that going into it, and you didn't like it while you were watching it, so you sat there pouting about it like an upset little kid because you had to go watch a movie you didn't want to go see. And before you say, oh, I did it for my fans, you are also allowed to tell the people that are your fans, no. And if you're just doing it because you really wanted to be on this Barbie bandwagon, you can also admit that. But don't you fucking dare sit there and say you did it because, oh, the crap you did for your fans and the 2 hours you're never going to get back and blah blah blah. I hate to break it to you, but art is subjective. Movies are subjective. Me and my friend watched the same movie, and I had a wildly different opinion from her. If you didn't like the movie, just say so. You don't have to keep bringing up facts that you brought up for the past 24 minutes. We got it. Girls and their moms. We got the concept. Move on to a different selling point. Because at this point you are being repetitive, like you don't know what else you want to say.
It starts with Helen Mirren explaining that back in the day, girls would only play with dolls that looked like babies. And then she says that this could be fun, at least for a while anyway. Ask your mother, because your mother actually hates you and doesn't like being a mom, you see. So if you ask your mom, she wants to play at not being a mom sometimes. Okay, so
So among adults of all ages, there was a notable gender split in a survey done. 63% of women without children said they had no desire to have a child, while only half of the males said the same. So what does this mean? Children are expensive. They're super duper expensive. And sometimes the answer is not so much that you don't want to have kids, it's so much that if I have a kid, am I able to provide sufficiently for them? Because you have to house, feed, clothe, educate, and overall ensure that the child you bring into this world is actually going to survive into adulthood and become a really good functioning member of society. And if you cannot guarantee that you can provide all these things for them, then it becomes a matter of you being a really crappy parent. It has nothing to do whether or not you like your kids. It has to do with, what do I have to do to ensure that this little human being grows up to be a functioning member of society? Get your facts together, my guy.
The basic premise is Barbie is supposed to be the independent woman who liberates all womanhood, but she fails. And she fails for two reasons. One, she's actually a tool of the patriarchal capitalist system. And two, the real world has rejected the message of Barbie, which is that women should run everything. Okay, so this is all not implicit. This is explicitly said. At the beginning, the monologue, you have Helen Mirren saying, because Barbie can be anything, women can be anything.
So I know I said it before at the beginning of this video, 30 minutes ago, but in case anybody just clocked it out because it's a very, very long-winded explanation, Barbie was created because the woman who made Barbie wanted her daughter to grow up to be anything. That is literally the bread and butter that Barbie was made from. Go be anything. Has the message changed and manipulated itself over the years? Yeah, duh. Of course it has. It has to change with the times. At its core, though, Barbie is an idea, which is the main theme of this movie. Barbie is an idea. Ideas don't die. Thank you, V for Vendetta. Ideas are bulletproof. Ideas are timeless. And ideas are allowed to change with every generation that subsequently follows the original idea. I know that is a wild concept sometimes to hear, but it do be true. I promise. Chill your man titties. I feel like you personally are just having a conniption fit for stupid reasons.
At least that's what the Barbies think. See, in the real world, women can't be anything. And that's one of the messages of the film. In the real world, men run pretty much everything. Which is weird. Who greenlit this piece of shit? I mean, Greta Gerwig is a lady. She's making a good living off of this. Margot Robbie is playing the lead. In fact, the entire cast, aside from basically Ryan Gosling, is women.
That's actually not really true. In the Barbie franchise, if you look up the cast, there's actually 12 notable men from Hollywood, including John Cena, who also played with Margot Robbie in a Suicide Squad movie, the second one, that also play in this movie, including countless nameless background extras. So the movie is not just predominantly women. Barbie, at its core, has always had Kens in it, so they put the Kens in there that they needed to. But if it's a movie about fucking Barbie, of course it's going to be about Barbie. Duh. I know that Did nobody double check this guy's script? Or like hand him a sticky note of, no, that's not true, there's guys in here besides Ryan Gosling? Other than Ryan Gosling and John Cena, I'm gonna say their names wrong, because I am just bad at saying names wrong, but there is Will Ferrell, there is Simu Liu, Michael Cera, I think I said that name wrong, Nukuti Gatawa, Kingsley Benadir, Connor Sidwells, Scott Evans, Jamie Demetrio, Luke Mullen, John Cena already named, Ramzan Mila, and Justin Price, plus countless others. Is it predominantly women on the cast? Yes, because it's a Barbie movie. Duh, it's a Barbie movie. So it's primarily gonna be about Barbies, which are girls. What are we talking about? I feel like I took a migraine pill. What happened?
So, it seems like women are doing okay. But again, put aside the meta logic of it. I'm going to go through like a lot of beats here. So it starts off with the idea that mommy dolls are bad and insufficient. But then they criticize Mattel for discontinuing a mommy doll named Midge. Right? Midge is the pregnant doll and it was discontinued. They're like, that's bad. But hold on, you just said that dolls about motherhood are bad. But then this one, don't look for any sort of logical coherence.
Oh boy, I get to pull out my ancient Barbie lore. Jesus Christ, I can't believe that I have ancient Barbie lore that I can pull off of. I should go on a game show. I could win so much money. Anyway, Midge actually is a for real Barbie doll. Midge has always been Barbie's kind of not really like freckled little sidekick that's been with her since her introduction in the 60s. And she wasn't really that popular. She resurfaced again in the 80s and the 90s. Then, for whatever ungodly reason, they decided let's release her again, but as the pregnant teenage doll version. You can see why she was pulled from the shelves in 2002, because there was a rampant fear that she was promoting teen motherhood. Not that it mattered, considering there was later a show called 16 and Pregnant that was on for like 5 ever, and I still think it's on, that was promoting teenage pregnancy, and they made a whole entire show about it. So, Midge is a controversial Barbie because of what she was represented, or what the fear of what she represented was. Not so much that she was the controversy, but that the idea that children would somehow decide to emulate her because, as we all know, children have exactly 2 brain cells and cannot think beyond the immediate ramifications of whatever they see on TV or what their dolls tell them. That is sarcasm in case it was not clear. So that's why Midge was considered a controversial doll. There were thousands of others, I might add, that were also controversial, but we don't have time to get into that.
There is a Citizens United reference. They say all of the members of the Barbie Supreme Court are women. And then they are speaking out about Citizens United, that corporations are not people. It's literally a Citizens United reference. Who is the audience for this? Who is the 7-year-old girl who's like, yes, I too have a very informed perspective on the Citizens United decision. And then they say that logic and feeling at the same time, it doesn't diminish us. It proves that we are more than, right? It's all propagandistic.
So I'm going to sound like a real bleeding heart right here, but yes, you can actually be logical and also have emotions that go behind you for what it is that you're trying to logically get to the conclusion of. Realistically, logically speaking, you understand why something has to be done. But human beings are emotional at the end of the day. So you will actually have a whole minute where you will straight up think emotionally first, and then your brain will tell you, hey dummy, we do need to think about this a little bit before we jump into an immediate conclusion. Some people are the opposite. They only think logically, and then their emotions have to tell them, can you stop being a cold, unfeeling machine for 5 seconds and try really hard to meet somebody empathetically or sympathetically, like halfway? I'll be completely honest, I have a hard time empathizing with people because I have an incredibly low empathy score. That doesn't mean that I am a cold-hearted snake person from the bowels of hell come to eat your soul. It means I have to remind myself quite a bit to be empathetic. There it is. That's the answer. You can do both. This is a non-issue. Just throwing it out there.
And then it sets up the dichotomy. The dichotomy is that men and women are in complete and utter contradistinction in terms of their roles. So women only exist if they are completely free of men, and men only exist if they are completely free of women. And the problem is set up for Ken, is that Ken is dependent on Barbie, right? Because Ken is kind of secondary.
So this is going to be a wild out of left pocket for me to sound smarter than I really am, so take this with a grain of salt if it doesn't quite sound like me, because I know, right, it doesn't sound like me, but we're going to go for it. Barbie and Ken are role-playing heterosexuality without any inherent sexuality of their own, without any understanding of what it means, or even have the genitalia to actually promote this. Just pretty girl plus handsome guy equals totes obviously a couple. And the way it fucks them both up is also prevalent in the film. Because they're both stereotypes, neither of them is a specialist version. No brain surgery, or pilot's license, or Nobel Prize for either of them. They're just assigned the roles of every man and every woman. Literally the original Barbie and the original Ken. They can do anything. And Ken ends up doing way too much, trademark, because he's hanging his entire self-worth on being important to Barbie. And Barbie just isn't interested in him. She was assigned a boyfriend she didn't ask for and doesn't want and doesn't know what to do with just because that's what society expects of men and women, that they will necessarily couple up and fall in love because that's what you do, regardless of any personal quality or qualifiers that either party might have. Realistically, that's what this boils down to at the end of the day. Barbie and Ken are puppets. They are stand-ins for what they're doing. Ken legitimately decides, this is what we're doing, and then, no, he's not, because he changes his tune halfway through. Like I said, God, almost 40 minutes ago, I feel like, Ken has always been Barbie's accessory. He's been the boy toy, the love interest, the guy. Never mind the fact that it's like, well, what is Barbie doing? Barbie, apparently, is literally living up to impossible standards and still having fun with it. That's it. That's the main difference. I feel like we sometimes forget that.
He also set up at the very beginning that Barbie doesn't like Ken. She finds Ken annoying. She finds Ken ridiculous, which, again, is sort of against the concept of Ken and Barbie. But the basic idea is that Barbie is an independent woman and Ken is completely superfluous. We then go to the beach, and there's a scene on the beach where the Kens are supposed to be the lifeguards and the ladies are playing on the beach, and we get a series of gay masturbation jokes. Again, there's an audience for children. They're talking about beaching each other off. Right? There's a line where Ken says to another one of the Kens, "I'm going to beat you off." Get it? Get it? You get it?
Yes, we got it. We get it. You don't have to repeat it so many times. I hate to break it to you, but they do put these kinds of jokes in, not for the kids. They put it in for the adults that got dragged there for them. There have been plenty of times where they have inserted adult jokes for the adults in the audience. Most of the jokes will go over the kids' heads until they get old enough to realize, hey, wait a minute, that was that kind of a joke. Calm down, Jesus.
Because it's like beat you off, but beach you off. And then they repeat that no less than 4 or 5 times in the span of 45 seconds.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
Beach both of us off?
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off.
Bazinga.
Because it's just such a great gay masturbation joke. You got to go for it. I mean, what else will the 7-year-old girls in the audience think if you don't go for the gay masturbation joke on the beach? Clearly.
But you know what I can't build? A second of patience for your fucking bullshit, partner. Please do us all a favor and shut the fuck up before I shove my wrench up your ass.
We get black female President Barbie because this is, of course, the greatest of all possible worlds. So Kamala Harris, the Barbie version, is the president of the United States. And then we get the break, right? Then we get the actual plot point. Plot point number 1. Barbie has irrepressible thoughts of death. So again, at this point, you might be thinking to yourself, wait a second, isn't this a kid's movie? Isn't this supposed to be made for 7-year-old girls?
I promise that the ending always stays the same, so there's no good reason to make believing that we could ever exist again. I can't be your friend, can't be your lover, can't be the reason we hold back each other from falling in love. So either
Nope. It's about existential angst over mortality. That's what this film is about. Now, again, interlaced through all of this is just more and more and more politics, right? One of the Barbies is a trans Barbie, and this is treated totally normally, as though this is a female Barbie with a voice, again, deeper than my own. So Barbie started...
I have nothing to say on this subject, not because I don't want to say anything on it, but because I don't qualify for this certain type of, like, inquiry into that section of the world. All I can say is, what does it matter? Like, this seems like such a weird point to bring up. It really does. I feel like you're picking at things that mean really nothing in the grand scheme of it. It's a movie, my dude. At the end of the day, it's a movie. If they decide that they want to write a world like this, and it's fine, that's kind of okay. Just, you know, greenlight it and call it good. If you want to make a movie that's not like this, then you can direct one. See? That's all you gotta do.
To have these irrepressible thoughts of death. And this comes along with physical symptoms, like, for example, her feet flatten out. Again, this is one of the few cute jokes in the movie, is that Barbie walks around, and just like a normal Barbie doll, when you take off the shoes, the feet are shaped like the shoe, like the high heel. But now she is turning into like a real world person, and so her feet collapse, right? And so she goes to see Weird Barbie. So Weird Barbie is a Barbie that has been played with too hard and has all the knowledge, not only about Barbie land, but also about the real world. And apparently there's a connection between the people playing with the Barbies and the Barbies. So if the people playing with the Barbies are sad, then the Barbies also get sad. Weird that this has only happened to Barbie, because it turns out that lots of people are sad and have played with Barbies for a very long time. But
none of that story is true, is it, Carl?
No, I made it all up because I crave attention.
that's the plot point. Fine. And again, the concept of like a Barbie that was played with too hard is very funny, because everybody has seen that before. And they somehow blow this. Somehow they make this into a not funny thing. So Weird Barbie is ugly, and she has bad makeup and all the rest of it. And she informs Barbie she has to go to the real world, and she has to find the person who is playing with her, and she has to make that person feel better, because that will heal the problem that she's having in Barbie Land. Okay, so we have our plot point, right? We have the thing that's going to launch us off into the rest of the movie. And then it's just a complete mess from here on in.
I don't know how my girlfriends Poppy and Xena do this all the time, constantly. I am 42 minutes into this and we are still not done. Okay, I mentally don't think I can keep doing this, but I'm gonna see it through all the way, because it's important that I get just all of this out and call it good. We're only gonna cover the Barbie bit of it, and then we're gonna be done with it, because I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, so I can't talk about it. I could talk about it from an historical point of view, but we're not here for the history of it. We're here for the, plot-driven movie cinematic version of it. So we're gonna finish this Barbie Bohonky, and then we're gonna be done with it. First of all, yes, there has to be a catalyst in stories to get your characters from point A to point B, and that's how it works. You've got to be able to propel them forward in a story. So is it a goofy premise for how they get Barbie out of Barbie Land to get her to go do stuff? Yes. But it also doesn't matter. It is a story of how to get the things done. Just let it be. Jesus Christ.
At least to this point, it's kind of dumb but coherent. From here on in, it makes no sense at all. Again, Kate McKinnon sets up the dichotomy that pretty much the makers of the film hate Barbie by suggesting that you can live in Fantasyland with Barbie and you can take the Barbie shoe, or you can take Birkenstocks, right? You can become like a Portland lesbian and you can learn about reality. That's going to be the choice that you have to make. But not before she makes a joke about Ken and wanting to see the nude blob he is packing under those pants.
That's somebody said that?
Perfect for 8-year-old girls, ladies. Mothers is...
Good guess, but actually no.
Be warned. Ken and Barbie head off to the real world to try to find the person who is playing with Barbie. And immediately, upon arriving in the real world, Barbie is hit with an overwhelming tsunami of sexism. Like right away, boom! She walks in, and a bunch of men just leer at her and say, "Give us a smile, blondie," which is something that no one under the age of 70 has said to a woman in the recent past.
So the word you're specifically looking for is catcalling. Catcalling is usually defined as rude, derogatory, or unwelcome comments, whistles, kissing sounds, sometimes even literal meows, and it's more than just passing jeers. Catcalling can be an entire wide range of ways that you are being harassed. Usually it's known as street harassment. It is designed to limit folks' access to public spaces and often has a serious impact on the person being catcalled. Now, is it this, like, in your face in the real world? It can be, depending on where you are and how you look. Yes, catcalling can be that severe. It's not always in more modern times, but back in the day it was a very serious problem. And it still kind of sometimes is still a serious problem. It's not like this has just magically gone away because we suddenly got access to internet and, like, better social standings. It's still an issue. So it's played up here in this movie to be as in your face as possible because it's supposed to be in your face as possible because it is a movie. Catcalling sometimes is super subtle. Sometimes it's as subtle as somebody invading your space and standing uncomfortably close to you when there's more than enough room for them to stand comfortably and give you your own space. This is just an example of Barbie having to go through this because she's never been in the real world. And they want to make it clear that the real world and her world are very, very different from each other. From a writing standpoint, that makes sense. From a movie standpoint, that makes sense.
Give us a smile, Blondie. Seriously? We get Barbie explaining that all of the men who are leering at her and gazing at her, they have an undertone of violence. She's threatened. She's physically threatened because this is the real world. The real world is not like Barbie Land. In the real world, all women are victims. They are deep and abiding victims of the system.
So I took this, when this scene was happening, as a kind of micro lens of rape culture. In case anybody doesn't know what that is, rape culture is a setting studied by several sociological theories in which rape is pervasive and normalized due to social attitudes about gender and sexuality. Behaviors commonly associated with rape culture include, but are not limited to, victim blaming, slut shaming, sexual objectification, trivializing rape, denial of widespread rape, refusing to acknowledge the harm caused by sexual violence, or some combination of all of these. It's been used to describe and explain behavior within social groups, including prison rape and conflict areas such as war rape as a psychological technique used in warfare. Entire societies have been alleged to be rape cultures. It literally is a part of how the world is viewed and framed. Realistically, is that what's happening in the Barbie movie? No. But I'm going to let you know right now. These men, during this scene when Barbie goes to the real world, they are sexually objectifying her. Even if it is very in your face, it is still what is being said. And it's scary for her. Most girls, right, most young girls usually get leered at by the time they start to even develop. And it's very, very weird to suddenly go from not really being acknowledged to suddenly having all eyes on you. I understand that for some people that's just never been a blip on their radar, but that is something that does need to be talked about. Realistically, even if it's not something you're personally comfortable with talking about, you should maybe read up on stuff. It'd be good for you.
As we'll learn by the use of the word patriarchy no less than 10 times in this film. She gets arrested, like twice, for various crimes. Even the police officers are rabid, raging sexists. The police officers are hitting on Barbie. They're making observations about her appearance. Ken, meanwhile, is getting super happy because Ken, who's been sort of an underling in Barbie Land, now he's realizing he's part of the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is awesome. Ken is loving the patriarchy. Now, you might imagine at this point that the way the film is going to go is that Ken and Barbie are going to have to some sort of agreement about seeing each other as equal human beings.
What movie theater did you go to? Like, I'm honestly curious. What movie were you watching? I need to know, because I feel like we missed a step somewhere between all of this. Did I watch an entirely different movie from this, man? I feel like I did. Maybe I should go buy another fucking ticket and go watch Barbie again. Maybe that's me, right? Maybe I need to rewatch it and see if I can understand what's happening for you specifically, sir.
You might imagine that's where it's going. Wrong. That's not where the film is going to go. You might have thought that what you were going to get was Ken gets treated with respect as a person, and Barbie gets treated with respect as a person, and that's a better. Nope, wrong. In the end, not to skip ahead, Barbie Land just gets restored, and the men are still subservient. That's the best. That's the best version of the world.
Why do strong and assertive women scare so many men? Because I feel like that is a question that should be talked about in conjunction with this guy's diatribe of whatever it is he wants to talk about, and I'm going to tell you why. Strong and assertive women scare off weak men. It scares off weak men because they don't understand that just because a woman is strong and assertive does not mean she is in competition with him. A strong woman will be a complement to a strong man. Strong women are too busy doing their own damn thing to be worrying about emasculating men. Every man that I have ever met who is educated and aware and is well-versed and well-traveled or any sort of emotional intelligence appreciates women who are smart and assertive and capable. First of all, please do not confuse strong and assertive with obnoxious and aggressive. As a woman, I would agree that the second type of female is usually out of control with her behavior, and she is scary, right? She's the lady that'll rip off her false nails with her teeth to fight you. She's that kind of obnoxious and aggressive. That's an entirely different breed of person right there, right? Just right off the gate. Second of all, understand that a genuinely strong and assertive individual is not easily manipulated and dominated by others, regardless of gender. Third, and most importantly, understand that those who are insecure regarding their own value and who lack confidence in their own abilities will feel intimidated by those who exude an attitude of confidence as opposed to arrogance. Realistically, why are the men, or I guess the Kens in this universe, lesser than Barbies? They're not lesser than Barbies. They are very comfortable in their own skin. The status quo has been pretty set for a long time, and it's because, in all honesty, Mattel makes dolls. They've made shows. They've made a ton of shows. Jesus Christ. They make Barbie. They make Monster High. They make Ever After High. They make... Jesus Christ, they make so much stuff. My point is, they're doll makers at the end of the day. Dolls are primarily aimed at children. And also the adults who reconfigure and redo doll customizing. I watch those videos. Those people have way too much creativity. It's wild. My point is, Mattel is a company that knows what it's doing and knows what it wants to do. So it makes girl dolls because the girl dolls sell more because they get all the brand new accessories and all that other stuff. Because their story's aimed at children growing up. They add boys in there because, no duh, boys are part of society. Slow clap it out for the people who realize that. That's what's going on. Also, at the end of the day, this is a movie, sir. Chill your titties.
Okay, so Ken is walking around and he's really enjoying the patriarchy and all of this. And he explains that men rule this world. And he goes to Mattel and all the members of the board are men. By the way, I'd like to see a corporate breakdown of the Mattel board. I'll bet I can find it. Like the CEO of Mattel for 30 years was a woman. So there's that. They pretend that like Mattel is all run by men. So now I want to know who's on the board. Okay, chairman and CEO is a dude. The board includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It includes 5 women. So it's 6 men and 5 women. Clearly patriarchal domination. Just wanted to look that up just for the sake of, accuracy. Whenever I do these reviews, like, oh, you're taking the movie too seriously. The movie takes itself too seriously.
I can do this game too, sir. So the Mattel Board of Directors is actually made up of 11 people. Those 11 people are, and I'm just going to name them from top to bottom. There's Yvonne Krez, which is the chairman and CVO. R. Todd Bradley, which is the operating partner, one equity partner. There's Adriana Cisneros, CAO of Cisneros, which I'm assuming is a company that she owns and runs. Michael Dolan, which is the former CEO of Bacardi. Bacardi, like the liquor? bro, what are you doing in toys? Whatever. Not part of the conversation. Diana Ferguson, who is the principal of Scarlet Investments, LLC. Noreen Hertz, visiting professor, University College of London. Soreen Lorison, former CEO of Top Toy. Top Toy? My dude, what is Top Toy? You know what? Again, not important. Anne Lewins, former CMO and EVP of Adobe Systems Inc. Roger Lynch, which is the CEO of Condé Nast. Dominic Ng, which is chairman and CEO of East West Bancorp Inc. and East West Bank. And Judy Oliano, PhD, president, Quinnipiac University. So, the board of directors of Mattel is 11 people, which is 6 guys and 5 women, like he said, which is kind of not really a 50-50 split. But, and I can't, help but harp on to this, because I kind of feel like it's a little bit important. All of these people have different functions for what they do. And if you look up their executive officers, we're just going to go down the list again from top to bottom. Jon Kurtz, who's the CEO and chairman of the board of directors, he's 57 years old. The oldest person on this list clocks in at 63, and that's Anthony DeSilveresto, who's the chief financial officer. No offense, but CFOs run an entirely different gambit and game than CEOs and marketing directors and everything else. CFOs literally look at money. And as far as they are concerned and how they operate is, if it ain't bringing in money, we're dropping it because it's not meeting our bottom line. That's it. It's the end of what a CFO's job is. So Anthony being at 63 means he's been in this business long enough to realize there's ways that we can get in front of the dollar. As long as we're in front of the dollar, this is going to work. So yeah, Mattel is going to do anything they can to make money. So your weird little bring up the board of directors things makes 0 sense for your review of the movie. What does this have to do with the review of the movie?
Hey guys, it pretends to be a comedy, but it's taking itself super seriously. Fine. So it's all men at the top of Mattel, and they realize that Barbie and Ken have escaped Barbie land. And this presents some sort of threat. What kind of threat? Because the writers are shitty. They don't bother explaining. They're just like, a threat. And Will Ferrell acts all weird and goofy, like Will Ferrell. And he's funny because it's Will Ferrell acting weird and goofy. But he's not funny because it's just Will Ferrell with no actual plot or dialogue to speak of, just being weird.
Hi, so this is me again. I actually went to bed because I just couldn't handle this. I had to take a whole entire 8-hour cutscene to re-get all of my mental capabilities back and came back to this, and I can already feel my brain #dying. So we're just gonna go through this really fast. Will Ferrell has played in more stupid movies than anybody I know. He played in a movie called Step Brothers, where it's 2 grown-ass adult men acting like they're teenage boys. I hate to break it to you, but this is where Will Ferrell exceeds in his career, is because he's always played goofy roles. Him and Tim Curry have always played goofy roles, and it works. I feel like you have just been bogged down in this mire of no fun allowed land, and it shows. What are you talking about? I'm honestly curious, because so far, we are almost an hour into this, and I am just reviewing your 43 minutes, and I am beginning to think this is going to creep into the 2-hour landmarker, because you have absolutely no points to be made, and whatever points you do want to make seem to be repetitive. We're going in circles. That's what I think of so far, is you don't know what you're doing, and you're making it everybody else's problem, because you cannot stand that a movie was bright and pink and colorful, and maybe talked about something that you just didn't particularly want it to talk about.
We'll fill that in later. There's so many places in the script where it's basically like the writers just, they left a gap and they're like, we'll leave a couple asterisks, we'll fill it in later. And then later they got there and they're like, nah, we'll just skip right over it. Fine. So they figured they got to track down Barbie and Ken. And meanwhile, Barbie is trying to track down the girl who's playing with her. And she mistakenly thinks that it is a teenage girl who is playing with her and who is unhappy. And at this point, she receives a lecture from the teenage girl about how Barbie has ruined the world and actually is fascist. How Barbie is a sexualized capitalistic emblem. How Barbie has created unattainable feminine ideals. How Barbie is ruining the planet with rampant consumerism. You get like this full lecture right in the middle of the film. It's truly awful. It's truly awful. She's called a fascist. By the way, it only sets up the only good line of the film. Truly, in my opinion, there's one good line in the film. And that is where Barbie is trying to contemplate whether she's a fascist or not. And she says, I don't control the railways or the flow of commerce. Now,
so actually, yes, this is something that a Barbie doll has always been kind of not really pushed towards and accused of. While Barbie, the original concept was to tell little girls in the 60s that they could be anything they want, as with everything, there is a thing called Rule 34. If it exists, there is, sexualization of it. That's just the way of the world. Humans are weird. But Barbie was always considered an unattainable, sexual object. From the word go. Is because while in the 60s, women having these hourglass figures kind of made sense, the longer that we've gone on, people have realized that's kind of an unhealthy body shape to make yourself be. There are plenty of people that have a natural hourglass shape figure. It doesn't mean that their body is unhealthy, it just means their body is shaped that way. There are some people who are shaped like pears, or apples, or other food metaphors, because for whatever reason, it's always food metaphors. And now I'm hungry because I haven't yet, gotten around to having my breakfast be finished cooking. So that's a wild concept to hear. And I just realized my webcam has been turned off during all of this. I should probably turn that on, because it's going to be one of the very few videos where you actually get to see my pretty face. I know. Fucking wild, right? What was I talking about? Body shapes. That's right. Body shapes wild and vary from person to person, and a teenage girl growing up in the year of Our Lady Dolly Parton 2023, is allowed to have these negative feelings and affectations towards Barbie, because, yes, is there a whole heap of things wrong with the world? It is, but it's easier for people to put their negative connotations onto objects and random people than their actual true feelings behind it, because it's easier that way. And you boo-hooing about this movie having existentialism and it's just an angst movie. It's not an angst movie. It is a movie where Barbie has to come to the realization that she is immortal. She is an idea. But the people who play with Barbie dolls, no matter the age, because there's a bunch of people that do one-of-a-kind doll customization, right? I think they are single-handedly keeping Mattel in the green with all the Barbies that they go actually buy and get, and all their other franchises that they go buy and get. You are allowed to feel sad. Would it be amazing if the world was constantly sunshine, rainbows, and puppy dog kisses? Of course it would be. But that's what playing with dolls is. It's making an impossible reality perfection, and it's just there. That's it. I don't quite know what it is you're trying to talk about, but so far it seems to me personally that you are just finding things to be upset about for no reason other than it does not jive with you about what you wanted to see. You could have just not gone to seeing this movie and not, quote, wasted 2 hours of your life. If anything is being wasted, it's the air you're sucking out of the atmosphere. I think you should carry around a potted plant to replace the potted plant air that you took from people. Jesus Christ, why am I so mad at this? Because it's a movie, my dude. If you're gonna critique it and review it, at least review it genuinely. Don't make up weird non-points to try and make a point.
Now, there's only one problem with that line. As with the entire movie, there is no character consistency. Barbie is supposed to be an idiot bubblehead piece of plastic from Barbie Land. How does she know what a fascist is? How does she know about the flow of commerce? Again, just in terms of character consistency, characters who actually are the characters, makes no sense whatsoever. So, meanwhile, Ken is wandering around, enjoying the patriarchy more and more and more. And he keeps asking men about the patriarchy. And at one point, he asks a dude about the patriarchy. And the guy says, well, that's not really the way that it works here anymore. He says, really? He says, no, it still works that way. We just hide it really well. Again, you can't even present the mild other side of the film. And this.
Oh boy, I love being able to bring this up. Sir, you literally said that in your movie viewing, right, where you went to go watch Barbie the movie, it was all a bunch of moms and their 7-year-old girls. Is it really a good idea to bring up such a heavy subject matter for young impressionable children? The answer to that question is no. And here's the thing. It's not that they don't want to talk about it. It's one of those, it's not that kind of a movie subject matters. It's a Barbie movie. So yes, everything is dressed down on purpose because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a feel-good movie. It's supposed to be a goofy, silly movie. It is supposed to be a movie about the fact that, yes, there's a bunch of stuff happening in the real world that Barbie and Ken are tangentially aware of because they are dolls, just like in Toy Story. They are kind of aware of what their people are talking about in the overarching sphere of knowledge, but they are not actually aware of what it means specifically. So yes, is Barbie supposed to be a airhead? Sure, Barbies can always be airheads. It's not like it's outside the realm of possibility. But it doesn't mean that she doesn't not know things. It means that she's kind of aware of it because the person who is her owner, the person who's playing with her, is aware of it. What are we doing? I feel like you are hopping from point to point. And as somebody who hops from point to point because I can't sit still for more than 45 seconds, my dude, you gotta pick a lane. Pick one or two, right? If you're gonna take up the 2 lanes. But stop dip-dopping all over the highway. You're gonna cause a car accident.
This sort of nonsense continues. The first third of the film is about how Mattel is kind of bad for creating this fancy land. Second third of the film is about the real world evils of the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the patriarchy. Culminating in an idiotic line where one of the low-level members of Mattel is with the board and Barbie is looking for a woman at the board. And the low-level man says, I'm a man with no power. Does that make me a woman? No, you can't parallel park. That's what makes you a woman. Okay, and in any case.
So my brother actually is about 13 years older than me, and he can't parallel park. Actually, nobody in my family can parallel park, except me. Which is actually the funniest thing is because I learned to parallel park by complete accident. Because I was so aggravated because I couldn't find a parking spot, and I found the parking spot by pure happenstance, but I had to back up into it. And ever since then, I will just back up into parking spots. Which I was told one time by my girlfriend, right? Not my girlfriend like Poppy and Zena, but my girlfriend, friend. She was like, can you stop flexing? Not everybody can back up and park. To which my response to her was, thank you for letting me know your bloodline is weak. Parallel parking isn't a flex. Until it is, because you realize not a lot of people know how to do it, which is why cars nowadays have to have the ability to parallel park. So it's not a matter of if you can't parallel park, you're a woman. It's a matter of if you can't parallel park, you're just really shitty at parking. There it is. It has nothing to do with gender, but okay, whatever.
We get here a few obscure jokes about Proust Barbie, because again, Noah Baumbach has to show that he wrote some of the script. He made a reference to Proust. Doesn't that make him clever? Ooh. Next, he will make a reference, I would assume, to Victor Hugo. Wow. Proust. Woo. Idiots who think they're smart.
Ben, it's in poor taste to make fun of yourself just so openly without some kind of follow-up joke to it. Granted, it is a funny joke, but you gotta back it up with something substantial. Now, really quick, because I realize that was kind of mean what I said, I need to make this very, very clear. I don't really dislike people. Like, I do, but I don't. I dislike them in a far away, it's happening somewhere else kind of a way. So, when they're presented in front of me, yeah, I'm gonna snap and clap back, but in general, I find my life is very easy going is because I just separate myself from the things that aggravate me, because I don't want to be aggravated. It's why I don't really make a lot of these videos where I'm talking about actual discourse and everything else, is because I can't get it into my own brain that I want to be this upset all the time. I literally had to go to bed, plus some, to get back to this video to keep making it. And we're still not done with it. Like, if you're gonna make a 43-minute video, which I know for a fact I have some that long that are gonna be coming out, like, yeah, make points for it though. Have different things all-encompassing that you want to talk about that will actually fill up the 43 minutes and not just stutter and make bad jokes. If you're gonna make bad jokes, at least make them kind of humorous for the subject matter you're talking about. I'm kind of getting to the point where I don't want to keep listening to this fool, but I want to make sure that I give him the benefit of the doubt that I listened to every last little thing he said and was able to present my own opinions and facts on the matter without being mean. So here it is, right? Here it is. The Barbie movie is basically a movie about Margot Robbie playing the Barbie doll and Ryan Gosling playing her Ken, going to the real world and realizing the real world is an entirely divorced subject matter from what they know. The Mattel Corporation realizes if they can get out, this now proves a problem, is because these things are technically, on a technicality, immortal, because they're an idea. And you don't want that being a thing, is because eventually this sunshine rainbows thing, right? Because that's what Barbies are. They're things. They're toys. Could probably change the world, is because they will outlive anybody and everybody that's going to come along, which means their very, very simple worldview is just that. It might infect people. I know it sounds wild to say that out loud, but is the story very bare bones outside of Margot Robbie, her character arc as the Barbie doll in this, with America Ferrera? Yes, but it is a movie that you are just supposed to sit there and enjoy. Is there deeper meaning behind it? There's deeper meaning behind everything. But just because you can't see the deeper meaning because you're just so weirdly, I don't even know a word for you, just so weirdly you, then that's a you problem. It really is.
It's total. Okay, then Barbie escapes the Mattel building. They were going to package her up and they were going to send her back to Barbie Land. And she instead runs and she escapes the Mattel building. And she hooks up with America Ferrera. So America Ferrera is the actual one who's playing with Barbie as a youth. And it's her daughter who Barbie had originally approached. Twist! Okay, and she decides that in order to escape the Mattel executives, she's going to have to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Why does she bring both of them back to Barbie Land? No one knows. There's no actual, there's no explanation as to why she's supposed to bring both of them back to Barbie Land. Supposedly, it's because she needs to escape back to Barbie Land, but she could do that without the two of them. But she decides she's going to bring them back. So she brings them back to Barbie Land. Meanwhile, the Mattel executives are chasing her. Now, question, why are they chasing her?
Okay, so I literally just answered this in my last little segment, so I'm not going to go back over it again, because I'm just not going to. But the reason why Barbie brings them back to Barbie Land with her is because, yes, the daughter is a little jaded about the world. And her mother, the one that actually is the one playing with Barbie and giving Barbie all this existential dread and, like, worry, she wants to show them, it's like, look, we're not bad. We're not even supposed to be evil. We're just like this. Our world is very simple. And that's it. That's the reason why she brings them back with her, is because she doesn't really have a game plan outside of going home. She wanted to find the person who was playing with her to understand why she had these horrible feelings. That was it. There are plenty of people I know who have dolls, actual Barbie dolls, that are still adults. Sometimes the answer is you have to find things that bring you joy. Even if they're weird little things. Like my older sister, she loves knitting. For the longest time, I thought it was just a really ugly lamp that she had in her room. Turns out it's actually a thing that you need for yarning, like to make it better. I don't know what it is. People who know what yarning is and that ugly looking lamp thing, they know what it is, but it brings her unbelievable joy to do yarn work. She made sweaters. She made coasters. She made a tea cozy. You ever seen a tea cozy that's been crocheted, like really prettily? It's nice. We all have ugly Christmas sweaters that she crocheted us. Do we wear them all the time? Well, I know I do. I sometimes wear the ugly Christmas sweater that she gave me when I was 12 as a pajama shirt in the wintertime, because she made it with love, and she made it because it brought her joy. I think that's the main thing you're missing, sir. Sometimes people just hold on to things to bring them joy. So Margot Robbie playing Barbie brought them back to a land that brings her joy, because she wants the woman, America Ferrera, to stop feeling like this, because it's not good for her. I know that's a wild concept to hear, but it's true.
They achieved their goal. Barbie's back in Barbie Land. Why are they still chasing her? No one knows. It doesn't make any sense. They literally say, there will be consequences you can't even imagine. And then they're like, what consequences? And they're like, fill in the blank. And some dude says something about a podcast with two trees. You're like, that's the laziest shitty writing. God bless it. Okay, anyway. So Ken, in the meantime, he has already headed, while she was, futzing around over at Mattel, Ken has already headed back to Barbie Land, where he has immediately established the patriarchy. So just to point out here, the point of the film is that the matriarchy is amazing. Women are amazing at everything. Ken walks in, and within 2 seconds, he has taken over all of Barbie Land. and he has turned it into the Kendom within 2 seconds. So apparently the women are so unbelievably competent and brilliant and great at everything over in Barbie Land that an idiot man walks in and takes over the whole place inside of 2 seconds. Fine. So he takes over the entire place. We later learn that's because the women, they didn't know what was coming. We later learned they didn't have immunity. And the way that they get immunity is by learning to hate the men.
So I realized something, and I realize I have to say this and try really, really, really hard to make it as coherent as possible without making me sound like an idiot. So here it goes. The reason why a matriarchy is so wildly out of left field for so many people is because the idea of a woman-run society just doesn't make any sense. And there's a reason why it doesn't make any sense. Is because most men, right? And I'm talking the older generation of men. Because I feel like the younger, newer generation is more than willing to kind of listen, except for a certain subgroup, but we're just not going to go into those. Doesn't jive well with them. Is because most men assume a matriarchy would be exactly like a patriarchy, where there's actually a big difference for it. Where the patriarchy is a very specific set of goals, reasons, and how they do things. Matriarchies would be entirely run different, is because men assume women would treat them like how they've treated women. And they don't want that. That is a sudden fear. It's the reason why most straight men don't like gay men. It has absolutely nothing to do with, well, they're gonna take our women. That literally falls short is because gay men have no interest in women sexually. Maybe a friendship, right? But there's absolutely no sexual gratification to be had from a gay man and a woman hanging out with each other. I know for a fact, I have a gay friend. Hi Joshua, I know you are on my channel. Here's your shout out, I promised you. Love you. I knew for a fact if I ever went to a party with Joshua and we both fell into bed together, my virtue would never be in question is because he doesn't like women like that. I would have been, quote unquote, safe. It's the reason why most women, when they find out a man is gay, their brain goes from, should I be worried, to, oh, okay, whatever. But men can't see it like that. If men hear that there is a gay man in their vicinity, they get all uppity about it because, well, what if he starts to harass and treat me like how I harass and treat women? Hey, my dude, that sounds entirely like a you problem. But that is unfortunately like the byproduct of a patriarchy. You cannot at all conceive of a world where you just aren't the boss. Whereas matriarchies, right, and I'll be completely honest, my dad used to make fun when he was alive of, he lived in a matriarchy because there was me, my mom, and my 2 sisters, and then him and my brother. They were definitely the minority in the house, but he realized pretty quickly that living in a house full of women wasn't really that bad. Did we squabble and bicker? Yes, because everybody squabbles and bickers. But it's not because we didn't love each other, it was because it's just a clash of personalities. But he used to make fun of himself and my brother. We live in the matriarchy. They treat us like slaves, as they sit there getting served pancakes on a Saturday morning. Do you see what I mean? A matriarchy is only as bad as you personally think it's going to be. Patriarchies, we've already seen what a patriarchy can do. I'm sorry. You can't say a matriarchy is inherently better or worse because we've never had one. So you need to chill your titties and find a new sticking point.
That's the way that they have to learn to hate men. Okay, so Ken decides he's going to go back and he's going to establish his patriarchal system. We only learn this when Barbie heads back with America Ferrera and Random Daughter. And Ken immediately starts acting like the jerks in the patriarchy, right? He calls her baby. Oh no. He calls her baby. The greatest of all insults. He calls her baby. And then America Ferrera is trying to explain to Barbie what exactly is going on. And she's like, it's just like the indigenous people and smallpox. They had no immunity. Howard Zinn wrote the script. So the ladies in Barbie Land had no immunity to the magic of the patriarchy, the magic. Women were seduced into... So just to point out here, the actual argument the movie is making is that if women enjoy men, it's because they have been brainwashed by the patriarchy. They make this message explicit in just a few minutes in the film.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yes, but no. And what I mean by yes, but no is this. It's one of those, look, if homegirl wants to get dicked down, like, every day of the week, more power to her. God bless. I hope she has an amazing time. But not all women like men. Some women like other women. Some women are asexual. Some women like both because they're bisexual. Some women are poly, some women are pan. Literally, the world has expanded far beyond the pink and blue debate. Now we have pinks, blues, greens, magnetas, puces, and also sometimes, just to jazz it up to be special, oranges. No, I am just naming random colors, but my point of this is this. The world has expanded beyond the very simple views of how things operate, and it's okay that it's changed. I understand change is scary, but change isn't something to be feared, and I feel like that's the main problem with this, is that the fear of the unknown is what's making people so upset about this movie, which, you know what? Barbie's been making people upset since her debut in 1959. Amazingly enough, 65 years still, and she's still making people upset. I strive to make people as aggravated and mean and be petty about it as Barbie has. God, I would love to make somebody mad for 65 years because they cannot one-up me from my throne. That would be amazing. Oh my God.
And when I say a few minutes, I mean several years, because this film took years off my life. It is long, it is boring, and it's terrible. Okay, so the Kens are about to perform. None of this makes any damn sense. Okay, the Kens are about to have a vote to change the Constitution. Why? Why? Ken literally just seized power. He's a fascist. What the f*** is he going to vote for? Why are they voting? Like, he seized power. Also, what is the breakdown demographically of the Kens and the Barbies? Are there as many Kens as Barbies? Because why would they hold a vote? The Kens appear to be in a minority in Barbie land. There are a lot more Barbies than Kens. So if that's the case, why even do the democratic vote thing? Why not just seize the power? Because then you wouldn't have the rest of the dumb plot of this stupid film. So they decide they're going to hold the vote. And not only are they going to hold the vote, they're going to be very fair about it. They're going to hold it in 48 hours. They're going to hold it in a couple of days to make sure that the Barbies have time to actually form a counter plan. Why would they do that? No reason.
So, I hate to break it to everybody, but I feel like anybody that has any basic understanding of history is that usually, even if somebody does take over a country, yeah, you can take over a country. It doesn't necessarily mean that the people that live in that country, which in this analogy is Barbie land, so follow me on this. If you take over a country, cool, you took over a country. But usually the people that live in that country are still going to uphold the rules and laws that they abide by. So the only way that you can really start to affect total change is by implementing laws and rule changes that they will now have to abide by, or else it is illegal and they are allowed to be lawfully put into prisons. Realistically, this is legitimately what Hitler did. It's not like Hitler got into power legally and then just started all of his bull honky Nazism. Hitler got into power legally and then began very slowly infecting the populace around him with his ideals and changes, and then implementing rules in order to benefit those rules and changes. It is the reason why, if you really want to fuck somebody over, the answer is not just bear down the gates, kill the king, and do all of this stuff. It is very, very simple of infect the system from the inside out. Because once a computer is infected with virus, and a well-placed virus I might add, and I realize this is a lot of different analogies, but follow me on here, it's hard to get that virus out, especially if they don't even know that they've got a virus. Like, that's the simplest way to explain this. So I'm not entirely too sure why we're having this argument of whether or not Kens are in a minority or not. It doesn't really matter, so long as you can make a law sound good. You're in the clear. So that's probably why they did the electoral vote thing. Like, that's just my 2 cents, so, you know, what the fuck do I know?
Asterisk, we'll fill it in later. Okay, so they decide they're going to hold this dumbass vote. And the Barbies learn about this, and Barbie is very depressed, because Barbie realizes that all the other Barbies have been taken in by the patriarchy, and this is extremely bad. Now, here's one place where you have a serious continuity error in the film. So, Margot Robbie, who plays Barbie at the beginning, half the time she plays Barbie is kind of stiff like a doll, and half the time she plays Barbie is just kind of normal. And so now she plays it super stiff like a doll. She sits down, you know, in kind of 90-degree position like a Barbie would, and she keels over in the 90-degree position. And it would be funny, except she hasn't been doing it the whole film. Again, the level of inconsistency and bad filmmaking here is just off the charts. They needed somebody to actually sit down with them and be an adult in the room, and no one was there.
So, I also noticed this continuity error, but the longer I thought about it, the more I realized it's not really an error. The reason why Margot Robbie was playing more stiff when she was more Barbie is because she wasn't experiencing the real world. When she was more fluid and less 90-degree ankle-ish is because she was experiencing being human. So is it a little bit of an inconsistency? Yes, but not really when you expect it to be a kids movie, air quotes on air kids movie, and also realize that she's becoming a person. I would like to direct everybody's attention to the story, The Velveteen Rabbit. The Velveteen Rabbit is a story, in case you do not know, or if you do, I'm just going to prattle on about this because I want to talk about it. The Velveteen Rabbit is a story about a Velveteen Rabbit who is gifted as a Christmas present to a little boy. And at one point, because the toys can talk to each other, right? Because it is a kid's book. They're talking to each other, and the rabbit asks him point blank, right? A hobby horse, which is also in this fucking movie, just so we're clear. A hobby horse of, well, how do I become real? And the hobby horse point blank tells him, oh, becoming real is hard. Because you have to go through a lot of love to become real. And if you're well loved, you don't look well loved. You are rough. There are pieces of everything missing. You're sore in places, but you are loved is because that child has put all of their love and intention into you, and if anything happened to you, they would be devastated, which is true. How old was I? I think I was, let's say 7, right? 6 or 7 years old, so still kind of young, and I remember I had forgotten my Pandaroo. My Pandaroo was a stuffed koala bear that I had put glitter and glue over at one point. Like, there's pictures of it, and God, I was such a dumb kid. But, okay, focus. My Pandaroo was very important to me, right? I slept with it. It was very me. It was a Beanie Baby that my mom, I think, had gotten for me when we went to a carnival, because she won at one of the dart games. But that panda was very important to me, and at one point, I had lost it, right? I was inconsolable for days. Ugly tears abound. And my mom and dad were very, very sympathetic and realized they couldn't just go get me another fucking stuffed koala because it was a Beanie Baby koala, so they knew they couldn't replace it to try and assuage my tears. We eventually found it. It was, for whatever reason, at the bottom of, like, the trunk in my dad's car. No clue how it got there. Kinda not the point, right? But I loved that doll so much because to me it was real. Glitter and glue and all. And I have long since outgrown my Pandaroo. I still remember my Pandaroo because it's a funny it's a funny memory. But to me, right, the Pandaroo was real. To America Ferrera in this, Barbie was real. So Barbie became more human the longer that the film went on. And whenever that belief started to wane, again, in my opinion, she became more doll-like because the love for that doll wasn't there. Just like in The Velveteen Rabbit, the love wasn't there, so you can't be real. That's my 2 cents. Is it true? Probably not, but again, it's 2 pennies, my dude. It's not worth much to begin with.
So, at this point, America Ferrera and daughter decide they've given up on Barbie because Barbie won't fight for herself. And so they take off. And Michael Cera, for no reason, is in this film. And he's in the back of the car, and we don't know why.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
And he serves no purpose other than to have a random fight scene. And also so that they can make a Trump building the wall reference. Right? Apparently the Kens are going to build a wall to keep people from getting in or getting out. Now, here's the weird part. No one has ever entered or exited Barbie Land before. Why are you building a wall? What is the necessity for a wall? No one explains. It's just a dumb Trump reference so that everybody who is friends with Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig can laugh and nod like the morons they are.
I kind of feel like this has long since been a reference that everybody makes, but also at this point, it kind of is dated and old, but also keep in mind, movies take 5 ever to, like, film, edit, produce, soundboard, market, and then eventually hit the big screen. So when people are literally doing movies, the movie could take like 3 or 4 years to actually be fully realized and all this other jazz. So I'm not entirely too sure why this is a point that you want to bring up. Like, I get it, but also I don't. Maybe because I'm not into the politics, right? The politics, I'm just not into it, so I just really don't care. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why I don't do these videos. I don't know enough about politics, honestly, to pretend to give a shit about it. Maybe that's the main selling point, yeah?
And so, the daughter and the mom, they decide, no, we have to go back and we have to save Barbie Land. They're going to save Barbie Land. And who do they go to? They go to wise, weird lesbian Barbie. They go back to Kate McKinnon and they ask her about this. And they bring Barbie with them. And they're going to try to figure out a strategy. How do they stop the Kens from winning the vote? Now, you might say to yourself, wait, aren't the women majority? Do they not have agency, the women? They have no agency, apparently. So apparently the women have no agency and they are a majority, and yet they have to be deprogrammed. They're going to be deprogrammed by weird Barbie and her crazy cadre of feminist heroes.
I love you guys.
And this is when we start getting into the real. You think it's propagandistic so far? Oh man, wait. Here is where we get into like the real meat of it. Okay, so we end up with Barbie complaining. She's complaining to weird Barbie. And she says, oh my God, they've brainwashed all the other Barbies. They've brainwashed all the other Barbies. She says, quote, either you're brainwashed or you're weird and ugly. There is no in between.
So I personally took this line to mean as you're ugly on the inside, because some of us just are straight up not pretty, right? I'll admit it. I have been told I look cute, but I also look like I'm 15 because of how I've taken care of myself, which is just basic, everything. But again, that is neither here nor there. The point is, this is a weird line, and I'll give it to you. That is a weird line, but I always took it to mean like you're ugly on the inside. Because I've seen plenty of people that are drop dead gorgeous, and then I hang out with them for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, ooh, that is rotten from the inside out. It just hasn't gotten to the outside yet. Good to know. Mental note. Understood. And then I don't really hang out with them anymore is because if you're rotten from the inside out, you're rotten. Sorry.
And Weird Barbie says, tell me about it. And this is the perspective of the film. Either you're a third wave feminist kook who hates men, like truly hates men, or you're brainwashed.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
There's no in between. There's no actual relationship between men and women. There can't be any sort of fulfilling relationship between men and women. There are no decent males in the entire film. All the men are garbage. The only man who even appears mildly is America Ferrer's husband, who's just kind of a joke. He's there for literally 10 seconds in the film making jokes about how he can't speak Spanish. That's his whole role in the film.
Ah, no te preocupas. Mi español es perfectamente. That is the only line of Spanish I know outside of hello, my name is, and where's the bathroom. Realistically, it's okay to make it a running gag of somebody else knows the language and you know so very little of it that it gets to a point of English. Please, let me have English. That's all I want from you. That's it. That's all I want. That's funny in certain contexts. Just saying.
Every other man is a piece of shit in the film. Everyone. And so, this is the perspective of the film when you come right down to it. Either you are brainwashed or you are weird and ugly. And Barbie's like, yeah, that's what Barbie says. I mean, the only decent male is Alan, who apparently wants to wear pink and probably is supposed to be gay. I mean, I think it's supposed to be pretty clear from the film. Although, really, the take of the film is that all the Kens are gay. That's really the take of the film, is that it's all homoerotic kind of stuff.
Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
And in any case, the filmmakers are so insecure with even their own script that they then have the narrator jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point, right? Because Barbie's saying, I don't feel beautiful anymore. And they're like, Margot Robbie. They literally jet in to say, Margot Robbie might not be the best person to make this point. Then maybe you shouldn't have written the point. Then maybe you shouldn't write it like that. Maybe you should not be a writer. Maybe you could do that. Okay, no.
So the phrase you're looking for is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome is the condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally, despite being high-performing in external objective ways. This condition often results in people feeling like a fraud, a phony, an imposter, and doubting their abilities. Granted, is Margot Robbie considered very conventionally attractive? Yes. However, the feeling of anxiety that she is experiencing in the scene you are describing is very real. There are plenty of people who have imposter syndrome, where they are on the highest high in the world, and then all of a sudden a evil little voice in their head says, yeah, but what if you're lying to them? And it completely takes the wind out of their sails. Is it stupid? Yes, because those demons, those evil little voices, do not pay rent inside of your head, and yet they take up the vast majority of the head brain space because they are just so loud. For the record, being loud doesn't mean they are objectively right. Being loud just means they take up more of your hearing. But that's neither here nor there. What you are specifically talking about is maybe Margot Robbie shouldn't be saying this message. You are correct, but even the conventionally attractive have moments of doubt where they look at themselves and go, oh, but what if we're not as pretty as we assumed? Self-doubt is something that people have had for like 5 ever, because we're just like that. People just are anxious little balls of self-doubt and deprecation. Nobody really knows why. Well, I'm sure somebody probably can medically explain why, but that's neither here nor there. Margot Robbie is the Barbie in this scene that has to explain this. The narrator can interrupt and everything else all she wants, but that doesn't change the fact that, yeah, it happens.
Okay, this is when we get the full bore thesis of the film. And guess what, guys? The thesis of the film, made by women, made for women, made starring women, funded by a studio that is largely staffed by men. The take of the film is that it is impossible to be a woman in the modern age. Absolutely impossible. And so we get this long speech of America Ferrera talking about how it's so difficult to be a woman. They want us to be this way, but not that way. They want us to be thin, but they don't want us to say that we're thin. They want us to earn money, but they don't want us to earn money. They want us to do this, and they don't want us to do that. They want us to answer for men's bad behavior, but they don't want us to offend men. They want us to do this, and they don't want us... Oh my God, it's so difficult to be a woman. So the same tried, truistic bullshit that they've been propagating in every new wave feminist film for the last 45 years in the United States is now essentially telescoped into this one speech from America Ferrera, including a few cutaway shots of Margot Robbie looking up adoringly at America Ferrera as she explains that it's super hard to be a woman. It's so damn difficult to be a woman. You know why? Because of the patriarchy, because of the men.
So, no, actually, that is true. Most women want pretty basic things, right? It's the reason why the fiction that women read, specifically, right, the mommy, wine drinker, erotica novels, are way, 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 way out in left field, but that's okay. But most women just want, I want you to have a job. I want you to respect me. Bonus points if you're tall. Don't abuse me. That's it. That's it. That's all women really are looking for. It is incredibly low for the bar. What do guys want? I want to be able to give me all the kids I want, never gain weight, be able to eat like I do but not gain any weight. I want her to be able to stay at home and do all the stuff that is expected of a housewife, but also pay for everything else, so she has to have a job. She has to be able to do all these other things. She has to look like she's a drop-dead gorgeous supermodel upon waking up, no questions asked, even though that is not at all how any of it works. There is a longer list of what guys want out of girls than girls want out of guys. And in all honesty, it's tiring to hear this constantly. It really is. I am amazed that this is still an argument. Like, guys, please, can we please stop having this argument? At this point, you're gonna ruin it for everybody. Look, just let people do whatever it is they want to do. It's not hard. As long as they're not killing and murdering each other, I feel like we should just allow bygones to be bygones. And then I realized, saying that out loud, how much of a high bar that is to cross. That 1.5 inches of a bar that I just put down is exceedingly tall for some people. So, you know what, maybe we'll come back and revisit it when people have grown that extra inch to get over that bar.
That's the actual story of the film. And then they make a couple of other dumb references, right? The Zack Snyder cut. The men, they like the Zack Snyder cut. Wow, that's terrible. Okay, fine. Then they say, you know what we need to do? We need to disabuse all of these Barbies of the patriarchy. How are we going to do this? We need to allow them to live with the cognitive dissonance required to be a woman under the patriarchy. That's a line from Barbie. Now again, they keep doing this. They keep having Barbie drop these extremely literate and well-articulated lines, but she's supposed to be a plastic doll idiot.
Authority should derive from the consent of the governed, not from the threat of force.
It doesn't matter.
Hi, hello, Airhead here. The Airhead that you've been listening to for creeping close to 2 hours now. You can, in fact, sound like a bobble-headed bimbo, but also still have really poignant ways of getting your point across. One does not magically negate the others. I think the most well-articulated person I have ever listened to has been a bunch of little kids, because they are very succinct in the way that they want to describe and understand their feelings. Do they have the words for it? No. But they are very clinical and well-cut about what it is they want. Barbie having these really deep lines, did you ever think maybe she gets her jollies and kicks out of being a happy person, and just because she is exceedingly smart, she purposely doesn't sound it because she just wants to enjoy her life? All I can think of is that stupid line from Jimmy Neutron. Now, it's difficult to be a man of science. You're right. That's why I decided to sabotage myself early by eating nothing but sugar and watching cartoons. Sometimes the answer is literally simple. The dumbest people you meet might actually be secretly really smart because they just don't want to be smart, because being smart sounds like all of a sudden there's a bunch of expectations that are going to be heaped onto me because I'm the smartest person in the room. You ever think maybe that might be a smidge tiring? Because I'm just talking about it, and even I know that would be absolutely exhausting.
What is their actual strategy? So they have 48 hours to stop this vote, which shouldn't be happening in the first place because it makes no plot sense, because the men are fascists and the women are victims. But somehow they've been given 48 hours to stop the vote. So what are they going to do to stop this vote? How are they going to do it? Well, they're going to separate the men and the women.
Barbie!
They're going to turn all the Barbies against the Kens. It's so subtle. The symbolism is so subtle. Turn all the women against the men and you will save society. That's the message that you could be shoveling directly into the brain of your 8-year-old girl, if you so choose, this weekend.
Maximum volume.
So, they literally say this: get the Barbies away from their Kens. How are they going to achieve this? Well, you're going to make the men complacent and then take their power. This is how women have achieved power. Now, let me just digress briefly here in how women actually achieved power in Western civilization. The answer is that they lobbied men and men gave it to them. That is the actual answer as to how women achieved power in Western civilization. The amendment to the Constitution that allowed women to vote was passed solely by men because women couldn't vote. It turns out there are a lot of good-hearted men out there who like women and who want women to be able to live lives that they want. It turns out that many of us are husbands and fathers. Many of us have daughters. Many of us love the people we're married to. It turns out that that actually describes a huge number of Western men, that we are not your enemies. And yet the entire premise of the movie is that what actually happened in the feminist movement is that women seized the power away from the men.
So actually that is not entirely true. It is, but it isn't. So the 19th Amendment was signed on June 5th in 1919 as a way of Congress acknowledging and thanking women for the help that they did during the war. You must be thinking, what war were they fighting and participating in that earned them this big achievement? World War I, actually. And this was all thanks to the fact that a lot of women actually joined the Red Cross during this time and were really, really poignant in how they were getting everything done. Most of Congress was like, well, they do a lot. Also, prior to 1919 and the women's suffragette movement really getting their foot in the door and kicking off the ability to vote, most men, with the breadwinners, right, way back in the day, they would just hand their wives the paycheck that they earned. Were like, here's all the stuff, here's all the money, fix up the house, do what you need to do, feed the kids and all that other jazz. Realistically, it wasn't like it was an outrageous stretch of the imagination to finally get them into the, yeah, let them vote section. It was an inevitability. It wasn't because the men were finally gracious and nice enough to do it. It was because, realistically, voting is a numbers game. And as long as you have the numbers to back up whatever it is you're voting on, you technically have the majority vote, and then it goes through. It makes sense why you would add more people to the voting pool. It's also the reason why, inevitably, black people were allowed to vote. Not that it made, any sense why they weren't. They were still people, but again, we're getting into semantics now. Voting is a numbers game. That's literally all it is. Numbers win votes. And you can lie about your numbers if you want to, but then people call them that into question and blah, 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 blah. Point is, numbers win. So this inevitability of women allowed to vote happened. Not out of the goodness of people's arts and like the altruistic movement of they deserved it and we love them, but because we need the numbers. Let them vote. Plus, they did a good job in the war. More reason. That's it. That's literally it.
I'm sorry to break it to you, ladies. It ain't true. It ain't true. This notion that women vote as a block is not true. Married women vote very much like their husbands, actually. Single women vote more like a block now than they did before. But it turns out that people are individuals, and some women vote one way and some men vote another way. But again, the idea here is very simplistic. Men versus women. Battle royale. And that's what this literally turns into, a battle royale between the women and the men. But really, it's about getting the men to fight each other. They bring all the Barbies one by one. They distract them. They bring the Barbies in one by one, and they unbrainwash them. How do they unbrainwash them? Well, they tell them truths like, any power you have must be masked under a giggle. I have a question. I mean, I work with a lot of women. Do they feel like the power that they have has to be masked under a giggle? Was this film written in 1943? Who wrote this film? Well, we know who wrote this film. A feminist writer who gets paid millions of dollars to make horse. One of them says, we have to reject men's advances without damaging their ego. Or theoretically, you could just reject men's advances and damage their ego because what do you care? You have to pretend to be confused about money. Is this a real thing? Like, do women pretend to be confused about money so the men will explain it to them? This is all it's such claptrap.
Ugh. Okay. Time to impart some sad truths onto the people here. There are 5 basic rules of being a woman. It's amazing, actually, that we've narrowed it down to 5, but it's true. Rule number 1, wear heels. Always wear heels. No matter how uncomfortable a heel is, wear heels. Because beauty knows no pain. It has been scientifically proven that the arch of the female foot when dressed in a pump or stiletto is directly proportional to her womanhood. Flats are obscene abominations to femininity. Did you know that Christian Louboutin and Nicholas Kirkwood have a secret ballot where they vote on who will be barred from the female union? This is known as the Keynes Law, circa May 2015. The second rule, it's super simple. I promise they get simpler. Rule number 2, allow society to dictate your insecurities, especially when it comes to your body. If you come to accept any of your imperfections as a unique aspect of your character makeup, this is wrong. Just so wrong. Hang your head in shame and stare at those Birkenstocks you're probably wearing. Everyone knows you need permission to be happy with who you are and the level of confidence you exude. This is known as the Couture with Kylie Law, circa March 2015. Rule number 3, always ask for permission for the choices you make for your own body. It's particularly important that approval is sought from members of the opposite sex. And if you are beginning to understand that this is all satire and I am being sarcastic, then I am really glad that we are all on the same page. Look, realistically, sad truths are sad truths, but here is the TLDR you must know. Being a girl sucks. I have to go out into the world knowing that if I go out at night because I want a night stroll, I have to pack something sharp with me. I have to pack pepper spray. I have to pack a fully charged phone and or a taser. Preferably both, because there is nothing stopping some weirdo from deciding to completely cave in my dome because I had the misfortune of being girl-shaped in the middle of the night. We can't explain the rules of womanhood to men because men have never had to live in the same rules that women do. You have never been 11 years old and leered at because you got bumps where you probably didn't even know you could get bumps before. That's it. It's hard to explain being girl to people who are not girl. It really is. And before somebody pulls out the, oh, but what about the, shut up. I know what I said. It is hard having rules that are especially for you, but for nobody else. Because now it comes down to, what did you do wrong that you must now have all of these extra rules where everybody else doesn't? Because it's really crappy when they don't have the same rules you have to abide by.
And then my very favorite, do you want some pants? Because that's really what this is about, is women really, really want to wear pants. That demonstrates, the power of the patriarchy is that men really don't want women to wear pants, and women really, really want to wear pants.
Love your leg warmers.
Nice ass cut.
And then it's, all the men being victimized, all the Kens being victimized by these various tactics, up to and including Ryan Gosling hitting on a trans woman, meaning a dude who has a voice deeper than Ryan Gosling's, which is an actual scene in the film, which is just great.
They've all been dying for a little drama. The favorite star is getting out of coma. To feel the news with my
Okay, so then, final step. Finally, the women have been disabused. So now they're going to play the ultimate prank. The ultimate prank is that they are going to turn the men against each other. How are they going to turn the men against each other? They're going to turn the men against each other by switching partners. They're going to get together, and Barbie is going to be with Ken, classic Barbie and classic Ken. They're going to be together, but then they're going to move on to the other Kens, and the Kens are going to start fighting each other over the ladies because they're going to switch over. Now, not to put too fine a point on this, but this makes no sense at all. Because guess what would happen if a bunch of beautiful women decided to switch to other men simultaneously? You know what the men would do? They would throw a party.
I think you're confusing peace with quiet.
So they turn the men against each other. And then we get a 20-minute long segment of the Kens fighting each other using various implements ranging from like small bows and arrows with sticky cups at the end to tennis rackets. And that turns into a musical number.
I'm just Ken, where I see love, she sees a friend.
What does any of this have to do with the plot? Nothing. Literally nothing. It is just a 15-minute digression because they wanted to insert a crappy musical number with not particularly good dancing.
Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but most dancing is actually really crappy. It's only because it is done in time to music that it begins to actually look somewhat appealing. No offense, dancing is just wiggling around in tune to music. You can just admit sometimes people just don't know how to dance, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's crappy music. It just means you're being picky about what it is you want to see. That's all it is. That's it. That's really all it is.
And then what are the women doing during this time? The women are voting. The women are voting. So now we know the Democratic turnout strategy. The Democratic turnout strategy in 2024 is going to be to get all of the Republicans to fight with one another using tennis rackets while they go and they do the voting, apparently. So they go and they vote. After they vote, they reestablish exactly basically how it was, the matriarchy. The matriarchy is reestablished. And Ken, who is now really sad because he has lost his power, and all he wanted in the first place was just to be treated decently by Barbie. Is he treated decently at the end by Barbie? Of course he isn't. That would be silly. At the very end, he is told that he needs to learn to live without Barbie.
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken. There is no just Ken.
He, who was literally created as a doll to be with Barbie, he needs to learn to be apart from Barbie, and she needs to learn to be apart from him because atomistic isolation and loneliness is the best way to find fulfillment, ladies and gentlemen. It'll be best for Ken if he never sees Barbie again. It'll be better for Barbie if she never sees Ken again. Secular humanism is at its finest. We've reached the apotheosis. Men and women don't belong together. They belong very, very much apart. This is all topped off by Issa Rae calling somebody a motherfucker.
None of that story is true, is it, Carl?
No, I made it all up because I crave attention.
Again, perfect for your 7-year-old girl who loves Barbie dolls. Just perfect for her. And so we learn that men and women are supposed to be separate. They're not supposed to be together. And that maybe the matriarchy will allow the men not to be on the Supreme Court of Barbie Land, but maybe they can get some lower circuit court judgeships. This is what we learn. And we learn one day the Kens might have as much power and influence in Barbie world as women have in the real world. Because, of course, women are again, just absolutely subjugated in the real world. You think that's the end of the movie? Wrong. This thing has more endings than Lord of the Rings. So, ending number 1 is we find out that Ken is going to live apart from Barbie and he's going to find himself in being Ken. Ugh, the utter joy of self-exploration. Next, we get an ending in which the CEO of Mattel, who's been completely sidelined. You remember the CEO of Mattel? Remember he was supposed to be chasing them into Barbie Land for no apparent reason? So he's now in Barbie Land. We don't know why he's there or what he's there to do, except that we need Will Ferrell in the movie to provide no laughs. He doesn't provide any laughs. So he shows up. His motivation throughout this movie has been completely inconsistent. He started off wanting to put Barbie back in Barbie Land so that they could make money. And then he is told at one point that when Kens have taken over Kendom, they will make just as much money. He's like, no, that cannot be. I'm an ideologue on behalf of women. And then he arrives and he is told that America Ferrera wants to make ordinary Barbie.
Yeah, actually Mattel has started making different, body shapes for Barbies and also, Barbies that have disabilities and, wheelchairs. There's even a hearing aid Barbie, I think. Mattel isn't stupid. They know what they need to do. So yeah, this is kind of falling into the realm of realism where Mattel knows what they need to do to keep earning that sweet, sweet revenue, and as long as they keep earning that sweet, sweet revenue, they're gonna keep doing what they're doing. I'm not entirely too sure why this is a point that you're making, and we are already, an hour and 55 minutes into this, and I feel like this is creeping way past the 2-hour mark. I don't know how people do this. I don't understand how people that want to talk about political stuff don't go crazy. I can feel myself aging. I think I got a pimple because I'm getting stressed about this. Can you get stress sits instantaneously? I feel like I gotta Google that. Should I Google that? I should.
Which, by the way, would sell 0. Anyway, that will be profitable, and so now he wants to make ordinary Barbie because he's back to being uber capitalist, evil capitalist. He's making money off of Barbie because, again, Mattel are the bad guys, but they're also the good guys. But they're kind of the bad guys, but they're mostly the good, but they're a little bad. And so that's ending number 2 at this point. So we have the Barbie Ken ending. We have the CEO of Mattel ending, where he says, we'll make ordinary Barbie, and then girls all over the world will know that ordinariness is fine and okay. Because it's not that girls play with Barbie because they think that she's beautiful and it's aspirational. No, it's bad. Okay, so then we have ending number 3. You think you're done? Wrong. We're now 2 hours deep into this piece of shit. And we have now dug halfway to China, and we are going to keep digging. So we have ending number 3. Rhea Perlman shows up to lecture us all about the patriarchy again. You haven't heard it enough. We got to beat this sucker into the ground. We are going to take an axe, the blunt end of the axe, and we're just going to beat this thing to death. We're just going to beat it to death. So Rhea Perlman shows up because Barbie, it turns out, she spent too much time in the real world. That was the patriarchy and was terrible. So terrible that she wanted to stop it from happening in Barbie land. But now she wants to go back there because she actually learned some feelings over in the real world. So she decides that after all, this whole story was just Pinocchio, that she just wants to be a real boy. And in
a girl, she wants to be a real girl, using your own logic against you. But realistically, I'm going to cut it off here because I can't keep going. Like, I know there's more going on, but I can feel my brain dying. So this is the part where I'm just going to make my last little bit of statements here, and then we're going to call it good, because I can't. I can't. Look, Barbie was never going to be for everybody from the word go. If you weren't immediately going to like it because of the function of what Barbie is, you knew you weren't going to like it. If you were going in, it's like, I just want a nice, goofy fucking movie to go in and have a good time in, you were going to have a great time. There was no need for a 43-minute video to take up 2 hours of my time that I'm never getting back, Ben. But here we are. So, TLDR. It is considered a canon event that this movie was going to be a thing while everything else was happening in the world because The Simpsons predicted it. You can go do with that knowledge what you will. Also, we have a Patreon if you would like to donate some monies to the editors, because Lord knows we have to pay the editors a living wage. Also, there is a strike going on for the writers and actors of America. That's really important. Way more important than the fact that Ben Shapiro didn't like the Barbie movie and talked about Oppenheimer. And I've never seen Oppenheimer, so I'm not going to talk about it. That's it. That's the end of this video. Barbie's a good movie. You should go check it out if you want to just have a fun, goofy moment and all this other jazz. He makes kind of good points in this. It's not like he's not explaining things right. It's just I don't think he knows how to have a review without it sounding very whiny. That's it. That's the whole video. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Bye!
The union? We represent the workers in all magical industries, both evil and benign.
Oh, all right.
Are you feeling at all degraded or oppressed?
A little. We don't even have dental.
They don't even have dental.